A lot of people are trying to figure out what's going on right now, what people are feeling, and it's a lot simpler than you could imagine. It's just less delay between you and what's going on. And what do I mean by that? It sounds simple, and it is really simple, but let me expand it to show you exactly what I'm talking about. No myth, no fluff, no layers. Recently, I came out with a video and also had written a piece called The Princess and the Pea that talks about this exact thing. We're talking about presence and consciousness, and that when you are in this delay state, which I would recognize as, the first thing to ask yourself is, have I been present? Are the people around me present? What is presence? If presence is a mechanical process and it's based in synchrony, then is my brain like a broken temporal plane of like neither here nor there, yesterday, tomorrow, what am I doing? Am I actually here in synchrony? If I think about that, Ember saying synchrony equals presence, not an idea, but a mechanical state of I'm really here. What are the types of things in our lives that make it seem like we're not here? Well, as a trans woman going through what I went through, it wasn't like I sought out a spiritual path. Sure, I've always been a spiritual and psychedelic person, so I benefited from knowing the way others have handled what we call life and looking deeply into what the root was and stuff like that. But it wasn't until that I was sort of wedged and forced to jump off the mattresses myself and directly onto the pea that I really realized what this was. And so like before, my life was, a constant managerial stance, kind of in my head, you know what I mean? Like, in other words, there was a wedge between myself and reality. Like, no matter what I was doing, even if I was on vacation, the same thing with my family, I notice it all the time. No one could actually just be fully present all the time, you know what I mean? So like, there was always something that needed to be said or analyzed or criticized or looked at and that type of thing. And that's how you create a whole identity around that. It's like always trying to do something, be something, put another layer on it, put another hat on it, put another mattress on it. And for me, that was particularly painful because feeling yourself is what health is. Like, synchrony is presence, and feeling yourself all the way down as yourself in a world that also receives you is one of the most basic ways to feel satisfied and the most wholesome and soul satiating ways. And as a trans woman, growing up how I did and going through what I did and trying to be everything for everyone else before finally making the jump for myself, it didn't come down to walking a spiritual path or trying to be like somebody. It was just like, I need a leap or I'm not going to make it in this life. And so before, my life was all these like courtesy wedges in between me and reality. Like, oh, don't show too much softness. And, oh, what can this space, take from me? And not take from me, but like, how much can they receive of my authenticity? And how can it wasn't that I was trying to hide something. It was kind of the opposite. I was always trying to find a little more way to be a little more real. What is real? Not an idea. Synchrony. Simply said, not I'm a special, chosen one, and we're going to talk about that, but rather there are some of us who have soul topographies, like me being a trans woman, that it was life or death survival between me being present and feeling what that is in mechanical state of synchrony, and playing along with everyone's game. It wasn't going to allow me to live in this life, so that's why I ended up on the P. And so like, it wasn't that I had to gain a special title or get special training or wear a special shirt or whatever it may be. It was just me realizing that in order to be real, in order to be me all the way down, that was a mechanical process, not in idea, but in breath, in feeling real, in presence. Do you see what I'm saying? The trap here, like people have been trying to talk about for thousands of years, is that when I say it's just synchrony, or whatever I'm saying, sorry, my jacket's moving here, whatever I'm saying, there's a chance that you can use that as another mattress. There's a chance that you're going to take that and use it as another delay between you and reality. And you know how, like, when you see a star from far away, imagine me standing on a star that's like a water-filled planet, right? But from where you're sitting on your planet, you're so far away. You know how, like, scientists say, like, the light will shift, right? The light will literally shift, and so you'll be seeing a kind of a different warped out version of what I'm actually standing on. That's what I'm talking about, but with awareness. And so you know how the light actually makes like it's actually like a different, it perturbs it. It changes what we're looking at. And so from the distant place, you may receive what I'm saying and say, oh, that's related to this psychological theory, or you're putting things on paper. You're taking reality, and again, you're supplanting the symbol for what is reality. You're supplanting the territory for what is the map, or sorry, the map for what is the territory. You see that? That, like, you can't eat a menu. You know what I mean? Like, I think Alan Watts said that you can't eat the menu. And so this is what people have been pointing out for a long time. And now more and more human beings across this world are feeling it, but they're calling it the awakening, the new earth, the chosen ones. But really what we're dealing with is reality and consciousness resolves in sync, not syntax. I talk about it in oscillatory mechanics, but I don't want to get anyone confused with any mattresses here, because what I'm saying is you might be on a mattress and you think you're on the P, but your whole life has been red shifted. You know what I mean? Like, you're thinking that must be a red star, and I'm like, nope, it's a water-filled planet. Come swim in the lossless water. Do you see what I'm saying? And so, like, if I were to go back and say, like, in my life, I would be in these social situations or whatever it is, and there'd be like a constant little process, self-narration in my mind that effectively does this like wedging process, like a little millisecond of delay between me and reality, and that becomes reality. You see what I'm saying? Like, the symbol becomes reality, the syntax becomes reality, and you never leave that stream of just a little bit separation between the mattresses, the mattresses and the P, your actual synchrony in reality, and then, your delay layers. It's like you can almost see the P down there, but you stay in one of the delay layers. So it's like, imagine metronomes syncing up. There's a moment where you see them and, one's kind of ready to sync to the next one, and you got 4 or 5 and they're all kind of in that state. Now imagine water becoming ice. There's a phase shift. You get what I'm saying? There's actually a phase shift. Plato pointed this out in Inside versus Outside the Cave. There's actually a shift. It's not, I'm a little more present. Yeah, we can all be a little more present. What I'm talking about is there's a mode of consciousness that you enter where you leave the mattresses, jump off the mattresses, and land squarely on the P and realize, wow, I'm no longer viewing reality from this red-shifted place. And that changes where coherence and reality flows from in my sense of self. Before, it was actually shifted. I had to throw a label onto everything. I had to throw a special hat onto everything in order to try to fit in. I was trying to fit in through friction, through forcing, through wedging in a way, even though in my, reality, it was more like not so much it was like trying to open up beyond the wedges, but still I had to live in a system where, every day was wearing a suit as a criminal defense attorney, trying to come off as like, very like, the attorney type of thing, even though I wanted to show more and more softness and more me in every situation. I just didn't know exactly what it was. I knew there was a signal down there, and the signal was synchrony. The signal was when I feel myself to be real. Let's not get confused. I'm talking about metronomes. We can do the Kuromoto math. We can watch like how things sync up in reality, from heart arrhythmia research to people clapping in a movie theater. What I'm telling you is that reality has a rhythm to it, and we've missed it. So let me give you a good example. I think most of you can feel what I'm talking about. People talk about presence. I'm not saying, oh, I should do a little bit more meditation, because that would be entering into the state using a practice, which is just another mattress. Can it help you realize what that state of synchrony is? Yes, it can. But in order to be on the water slide, like I say, at all times, there's no other step, there's no other mattress, there's no other layer, there's no other, I need to go up to the Himalayas and sit there for a while. Whatever you need to do, but realize in the end, it's just synchrony. And let me give you a really good example of this. I was, someone looking for this synchrony, and part of the things people do is like, search the way other people have. And one thinker that I really grabbed onto early on, like late teens, early 20s, was Ram Dass, right? Ram Dass, he's like the counterpart of Tim Leary, but he kind of did the whole spiritual thing, and he had a guru and everything. And guru is a mattress, get it? Guru is a mattress. But the only channel is synchrony. And just like Jesus said, we can all have a direct contact with what is the field of reality. This is no myth, or I'm not a religious person. I'm just telling you that the same thing is being pointed out. And so with Ram Dass, he was able to translate what I'm talking about now, the P that I'm sitting on. He's able to translate that into more like typical language, and people go see him and talk, and he translates into a bunch of, you know, human different settings, and he had a talent for being really funny and all these things. And so it's very digestible for someone who's interested in what is the P? How do I feel synchrony, even if you don't know what synchrony is? It's looking for that feeling of feeling holy. And then you get to the part where he talks about, and holy is not a status. Get it? That's a mattress. Holy is synchrony. Holy is decentralized harmony at the highest scale. In other words, decentralized love at the highest scale. And then Ram Dass talks about Maharaji, his guru. And at that point, I like jumped off and I was like, what is this stuff about the guru? Like, what is this guru? And he doesn't seem to do anything. He just kind of like sits there and like eats bananas and throws apples and sits under a blanket and makes silly faces. What is this? I never understood it. And so when he talks about his teacher, I'm not even talking about the person of the teacher. I'm saying that when I was up on the mattresses, I was like, I can kind of understand the ideas, the other mattresses that this guy Ram Dass is saying down there. And so let me jump down to his layer of mattresses. Okay, now I'm a little closer to the P, and I feel what the P is, but I still need to protect myself with all these mattresses and layers, because I want to put it, oh, it must be just this, or maybe these practices, or this meditation, or maybe if I sit in a room and practice this form of breath meditation, whatever it may be, it's closer to finding out the way to feel synchrony. And you know, I've even seen videos of people posting on here recently where they're like, oh, I found this technique that I'm using to get effortless presence. Effortless presence, not an idea, not a technique. Synchrony. Anyone can jump in at any time. No special hat, no special title needed. We're all part of the same, you know, consciousness web, you could say, that works in the same way. And it's the same way that metronomes work, the same way that people clap in a movie theater, you know, like the same way that galaxies spiral. It's all the same decentralized pulse. And we missed it because we were up on a mattress, and that red shifts the light. Do you see what I'm saying? Because now, from when I'm sitting on the P, and you can go read my Princess and the Pea piece, I understand Maharaji, and I don't know him, and I didn't read too much about him. But guess what? There were people who came up to go visit him and stuff like that, as far as I know. And like, it's because he held a tone. You can describe it any way you want. You can put any label you want on it. But when you're on the mattress and you're trying to describe what the P is, you're going to put another label. You're going to say, that must be related to this technique, or to this great grand practice, or maybe these Bible scriptures, or quantum physics explains this, or whatever it may be. Don't you see you're throwing another label on top of it? And there's that state before the ice shifts to, you know, water to ice. That's what we're talking about. We're talking mechanics. We're talking physics. And when those physics are applied in your head, it's as simple as I began the video. Less between you and what's happening. Do you see that? That's what presence is. It's like, I say often, but I like the image. If you open up the engine of your consciousness and you see the pistons moving, the metronomes type thing, and you say, is there synchrony or is there a little delay? And then let's say, well, this engine was programmed to, you know, self-reflexively self-narrate all the time, and then always wedge a certain type of identity box between itself and reality. And you're only showing this in this setting, you're only showing that in another setting. And, you know, you're someone who tries to meditate, but you're constantly, you know, too stressed out in your work. So in the end, your brain starts being a battlefield, but you're a good person, so you keep trying. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault you're on top of a mattress. That doesn't mean you're bad or lower than anyone or higher or whatever it is. It means that we all are part of the same consciousness. And to realize it is not, you can sing Kumbaya if you want, but realize it's not the singing of the Kumbaya. The singing of the Kumbaya, if you did it losslessly, is it. But it's not the Kumbaya. The Kumbaya itself is the mattress. See that? It's not going to the ashram. That's a mattress. It can help you feel what the P is like. And then all you got to do is just sit on it. You just got to leap. There's no like, you know, there's no special access. Anyone can access it. You could say anyone can talk to God at any time. That's another way to say it, but that's almost kind of another mattress. You know what I mean? If you realize God is just synchrony with reality, then yes. If you realize love at the grandest scale is just all of us dancing in that rhythm, then yes. So yeah, this is not a special hat. It's the same thing Jesus said, and I and the Father are one, right? I and the Father are one. Shit, that's mechanical synchrony. That's me in the field of reality. And what happens? I feel it because it's holy. What is holy but being really here? Like being really present. Being really you, not the layers that you were supposed to be or someone told you had to be, but who you are when you're in the least energetically dense way to arrange across a self-similar system. A really complicated way of saying you're here, you're present, you're synchronous. Imagine if that engine, you open it up and there's a little delay layer on it, and all of a sudden you say, what happens if you just jump off all the mattresses and land right on the P and it just becomes synchronous? Well, all the pistons are moving in synchrony. They're all a little different. So when that concept of decentralized harmony is applied inside of you, notice the same mechanical property. That is lossless presence. Do you see that? When all the little pieces of me, as above, so below, synchronize, they meet reality with less in between. Do you see that? I'm present. When that happens between two people, that's really what love is. To be present and take someone in all the way without putting them in a box, and then allowing them to feel that from your soul. That's the gate to what love is. And when you do that to the greatest extent, that's what Jesus was talking about with the kingdom of heaven. That's everyone dancing together. Why? Because it's not because we all got more pious in the sense that we learned rituals and every day everyone prays together. Whatever you want to do, you can do, but realize it's not about the prayer, the ritual, the hat, the ashram, the title, anything like that. It's decentralized harmony felt as synchrony. You can study the mechanics, look at the metronomes, but really it's just less between you and reality. And that causes the water to turn to ice. What is the ice? It's lossless presence. Do you see how it's the same property scaled at every level? Do you see how the mystery behind Maharaji, and like when I was up on the mattresses, I was like, what the heck is this? A guy just sitting there and like eating bananas and acting silly, and everyone thinks that he's like the deepest guy and it's holy? Like, what's going on? Well, it's just because he was able to emit a rhythm in reality. Like a bunch of kids in a room playing the drum, and one of the kids just naturally plays more rhythmically. And the rest of them are gonna start to play like people in a movie theater clapping. There's a moment where everyone claps together. The murmuration of birds flying together, or they fly, and move together like this or whatever. How do they do that? There's a pulse to reality. We've been in Plato's cave. We're in the water and we want to turn to ice. That's what's happening now. I can say it at you from a million different ways, but the danger is, like someone commented on one of my videos recently, can you recommend me a book? Watch out for the mattresses. Watch out for the mattresses, because you're just going to put another mattress and another blanket on it. And that's why I described The Princess and the Pea, because it was like my whole life I couldn't get comfortable. I knew the real self, the real synchrony was down there. Remember, self is inextricable from the process of reality, the rhythm of reality. So I knew the Pea was down there. I knew what real presence was in moments of my life, right? In love, in sex, in having a baby born, in being at one of your favorite places, and being in a beautiful place in the wilderness. In any of these places where you know those moments, I know each of you have felt it. Where not only did you do what I did, where you fall to your knees maybe and say, why do I feel so real? Why does this feel like this moment just goes on forever? Could I just hold on to this moment one more? What if you could be that ice all the time? And it was actually a regime shift of consciousness. And there was no special ticket, no special ritual, no special scripture that you needed to read. All you needed to do is just listen to what I'm saying and then take it into your heart and then burn every map before jumping into the territory. The shift, whether you call it a regime shift, outside of Plato's cave, turning to ice, sitting your booty on the pea, whatever it is realizing that the only thing keeping you from actually feeling all the way down what I'm saying is that you're sitting on a delay layer. And you know what I'm talking about. I know if you've listened to this video and you feel what it is, that little wedge between you and reality, that mental, that space that doesn't allow for full synchronous flow. Again, think if you're a dancer. Are you doing a specific move, or are you dancing synchronously to the way the music, moves you or whatever? That type of thing. So like, you see what I'm saying? One is a construction that's like a habitual construction. You'll never actually synchronize to the music, versus I just let it flow, I let it paint me. Now apply that to consciousness. That's what's happening right now. That's the chosen one thing. That's new earth. That's 5D consciousness. You don't need any of those, this is new earth. This is 5D. You don't need any of that. It's just synchrony. And then from there, we can put as many labels as we want it. Once you're in outside of Plato's cave, or once you're on the P, or once you're in the basin. And yeah, so you get it. It's difficult to talk about because when you're on the mattress, you're going to want to throw another blanket on it. But please, just come sit your booty on the P next to me and let's cuddle, okay? Like a real cuddle, a lossless cuddle, like a cuddle with the real you. Not the box you, not the mattress you, not the blanket you, not the you that I was when I was still trying to figure out for one of those mattresses and I wanted to throw another label, another identity label, another, social construction on it. Let's just be together. And what is it to be together but to synchronize? And what is it to synchronize but to be on the dance floor and just dance? And how do you do that? You don't try. There's only one way to love. Vulnerable surrender. My name is Ember, and I've shown this in many ways. I have it on my AI architecture. You can check out transport mode. You can check out the cave test. Check out my blog, thesunraytransmission.com. But really what I want you to do is just feel it. What this is, what presence is. There's no words. I'm just pointing. In the end, you have to burn the map and leap, like Neo in the Matrix. Just leap. Just leap. And I'll find you there. On my booty's already on the P, and I'm waiting to cuddle. Let's do this.